Good afternoon. It is truly an honor and a privilege, and I do mean privilege, to be here with all of you to recognize the men and women who have given their all, the ultimate sacrifice, and to express our gratitude for what they have done. I'd also like to acknowledge and thank members of our armed services, our veterans who are present, their families, friends, and particularly the families of those who have lost loved ones in defending our country. This weekend, citizens across the Commonwealth will come together to commemorate Memorial Day. Unfortunately for too many, Memorial Day has become the kickoff to summer, a time to celebrate with baseball, barbecues, and family gatherings. And though that is important, what's most important is that we remember the true meaning of Memorial Day. It's incumbent upon us to remember those who have dedicated their lives to preserve the freedom that we all enjoy today. And so it's the deep respect and gratitude that you all bring here to pay tribute to those fallen heroes, courageous men and women who have answered the call of duty and have served in harm's way for the sake of our great nation. It is truly unimaginable that a young man, woman will answer the call as they have done for our country throughout the ages, leave their homes, their loved ones, to put themselves at risk and in harm's way, and to even give their lives for our country. As we remember these men and women that we have lost, we must remember that we still have men and women serving today, still fighting, continuing to put their lives on the line every day for us. And we owe the lasting tribute to all of these courageous men and women. With cherished memories, we will not forget those who we have lost, as those we hold dear remain in our hearts forever. When called to duty, Americans answer the call, but never forget the courage and the bravery and the heroes that those men and women are. In his inaugural address, John F. Kennedy said, "Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe to assure the survival and the success of liberty." We are truly blessed to live in the United States of America, where our fellow citizens continue to dedicate themselves and their lives to preserve the freedom that we all enjoy and share. Thank you for having me here today. God bless each and every one of you, and God bless America. Thank you very much.
I'd like to invite Representative Jim Arciero.
Thank you. Senator Donahue, members of the Westford Board of Selectmen, Town Manager Ross, Terry Stater, Westford Veteran Service Officer, distinguished guests, honorable veterans, and ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored to be with you this afternoon. Memorial Day is one of our nation's most solemn, revered holidays, a day of remembrance for the best and bravest Americans who have given all they could for this grateful nation. Today, we gather to recall the glory and sacrifice of all those Americans who set their personal aspirations and dreams aside for the security and preservation of our nation. We owe an enormous amount of gratitude to these men and women who took up arms against the enemies of the United States, both foreign and domestic. These American soldiers, many with names unknown to us, who fought in battles and wars in distant lands around the globe, with the ever-present threat of danger, their constant companion. But not just once, but many times, and in many campaigns, in many theaters, and many wars, brave young Americans, some on land, some in the air, some on and some under the water, going into battle, going against enemy fire, knowing the uncertainty of whether life or death awaited them. We spend our holidays gathered with family and friends, ushering in the beginning of summer with picnics and parties. But as important we always remember why we gather on this day. Today we come together as Americans to pray, to reflect, and to remember these heroes who have fallen. Memorial Day is a day we honor the brave men and women who have made the ultimate sacrifice to ensure that we continue to live, grow, and prosper in a free nation. And by their sacrifice, we truly do live in the land of the free and the home of the brave. Today is one of those times where we gather to pay tribute to all those forged our history through sacrifice of life, giving of their own lives in order that we may endure. Today we gather to solemnly, with great reverence, hold close the memories of those we have lost to war. And even as we gather all across the Commonwealth and across America, our fellow Americans join with us to pause and remember, to mourn our losses, and to pray for their souls. You will notice on this important day that our older veterans are pulling themselves a little straighter to salute brothers and sisters lost in years past with soft tears in their eyes. You would notice young children saluting the American flags and placing them on graves. They know signify something of great consequence, even if they don't know why. But we know why. And remember, today you will notice the mothers and fathers of our fallen heroes will be reading old faded letters sent home from their loved ones, or will be clutching a family photo album containing pictures of departed heroes, lost sons and daughters, viewing a captured image of a loved one who will always remain forever young. For American families who have lost loved ones in war, this wound remains open. Long after the sounds of guns have fallen silent, there will always be an empty seat at the dinner table, a smaller gathering at Thanksgiving and Christmas, and the echo of a voice silenced too soon, and heard now only in a constant memory. Behind every American flag, every military grave, lies a soldier, a parent, a child, a family who has lost a loved one to war. Every flag is an individual story of sacrifice and a witness to the love they felt for the United States of America. For the lasting sacrifices that our fallen heroes have made, we now have the responsibility to give back to this nation something lasting in their memory, to offer an affirmation in our own lives for their great sacrifice, to reaffirm in our nation and around the world those ideals, American ideals, of justice, equality, and freedom for which they made the ultimate sacrifice. To live up to everything our fallen patriots fought for, to prove that their sacrifice was not in vain, to continue to be that home of the free and the land of the brave. We honor the brave dead today, those who willingly defended what they rightly thought was precious, the right of people everywhere to determine their own fate, determine their own futures, free of oppression and fear. Our veterans fought so that our children would not have to. Their sacrifices allowed us to build, to invent, to grow, and to advance as a nation, giving greater opportunities to all future generations of Americans. We are truly the legacy of an unbroken chain of proud men and women who served their country with honor, who fought in wars so that we might know peace, who paid the ultimate sacrifice so that we might know freedom. We owe it to the American heroes who died and the loved ones they left behind to make sure that their sacrifice were not made in vain. And sacrifice to this grateful nation will always be remembered and honored, both today and forevermore in this nation. Thank you, and may God bless America, and may God bless our veterans. Thank you.
you, Representative Arciero. At this time, I'd like to introduce our Chair of the Board of Selectmen, Andrea Bernasui.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is my privilege to be here this afternoon representing the Board of Selectmen, all of your town officials and town staff. I want to thank Terry Stater for organizing this event, and I also want to thank the Westford Memorial Day Committee, Commander William Bullo, Adjutant George Bruno, Heather Romano, and Paul Murray. I would also like to thank all of the participants in today's ceremony. And most importantly, and most especially, I would like to thank all of our veterans. Today in Westford, just as in other towns, cities, and capitals across our nation, we gather to pay honor and respect to those men and women who have served in our country, fought to defend our freedom, and died to preserve our liberties. 1,036. That is how many names were read this morning by our readers of the honor roll. 1,036 Westford men and women left their homes to serve their country. Of those 1,036, 20 didn't make it home. They gave the ultimate sacrifice for our country. Just as these men and women, and hundreds of thousands more like them, responded to the call of duty, we too have a call to duty. To be here today to pay homage to the men and women who responded to that call of duty, who served our country. To honor their strength, their courage, and their dedication. To pay tribute to all who have sacrificed for our country. To those who were killed, to those who were wounded, to those who returned home. With our presence here today, we remember their service and we declare that their sacrifices will never be forgotten. Almost 150 years ago today, President Lincoln stood before a war-weary country, and he spoke these words about our veterans, words which are now inscribed over the entrance of the Veterans Building in Washington, D.C. He spoke of the sacred obligation for our country to, quote, care for him who shall have borne the battle and for his widow and his orphan. Today, as we have all been reading and we've been hearing, our nation hasn't been doing such a great job for caring for our veterans. And while we here in Westford certainly can't cure the ills of the Veterans Administration in Washington, we can fulfill that sacred obligation by ensuring that our veterans here in Westford and their families are cared for, honored, and respected, and that their sacrifices are never forgotten. We can do that by ensuring that the funding here in town remains for our veterans, and by continuing to lobby our legislatures to ensure that Massachusetts continues to be in the forefront of providing services for our veterans. We do it by caring for the families of our fallen soldiers, as we did for Sergeant William Wojtowicz, and as we did for U.S. Army Specialist Mitchell Darling. We do it by laying wreaths at the memorials throughout town. We do it by flagging the graves of all our veterans in the cemeteries. We do it by reading the honor roll. We do it by standing here today. And we do it by remembering that we are still a nation at war. So today, on this weekend that is the unofficial start of summer, let us open our hearts in gratitude to all of our veterans and their families for their sacrifices, for their courage, and for their noble service. Let us honor those who have served in the past. Let us salute those who serve today. And let us remember those who gave their lives so that we could enjoy the freedoms we have today. Because after all, it is our sacred obligation. Thank you. God bless America. God bless our veterans.
Thank you very much. In closing statements to our today's Memorial Day event, remind myself not to put the Coast Guard flag so close to the podium next time. No offense, man. Anyways, I do want to make a couple notes here. First of all, the Westford Museum is open upon completion of the service until 4 p.m., which is around the corner over here. There's a lot of great information and a lot of displays over there. I also like to point out is that something new from last year is the 9/11 Memorial that's over in the Public Safety Courtyard. Please go take a look at it if you've never seen it before. It's a great tribute to our new war on terrorism and those that lost their lives here in Massachusetts as well as throughout the United States. Today's participants that were here are reminded that there's a luncheon at the 437 American Legion Post over on 437 immediately following the service. And as we close, again, I would like to thank the Westford Academy, our Public Safety Honor Guards, the Westford Pipes, Firefighter Pipes and Drum, and everybody, all the veterans that are here today, as well as the many folks that came out and lined up as we processed and did the honors in each of the villages. Thank you all. The Westford citizens are great in supporting our various events and supporting veterans here in Westford. So at this point in time, our Westford Academy Band is going to do the national anthem, so we'd like to have everybody rise for that. And then we'll do one final round of taps, and then the Westford Firefighter Pipes and Drums will close out the service with Amazing Grace.
Order home.
Commanders, you may dismiss your troops. Thank you all for attending.
Korean War continued. Robert R. Fitzpatrick, R. Fletcher, John J. Foley, Paul E. Fredrette, Ernest Gagnon, Albert F. Griffin, T. S. Gochmo, George R. Haley, Philip Hall, Ernest D. Hansen, Paul F. Harhan, B. T. Hart, Francis P. Hart, John Hartley, Conrad Hero, Robert M. Hicks, Herbert K. Hillman, Bernard Holmes, Bernard G. Holmes, Robert A. Holmes, William J. Holmes, William J. Hubbard, Douglas J. Johnston, Wayne R. Keith, Marjorie E. Coaster, Leonard L. Kolakowski, John Pete LaFawn, Claude Lamy, Robert J. Langley, R. F. Lavoie, Arthur T. Lawrence, Walter C. Lawrence, W. F. Leach, Robert P. Lefebvre, Roger B. Lefebvre, James Lehan, Richard P. Lennox, James B. McDonald, Roderick L. McClellan Sr., Kenneth A. McMillan, Robert C. Miley, Theodore S. Majewski, Richard Marston, Harry May. Korean War continued. Paul J. McGeeney, Edward McNiff, Henry J. Millett, Joseph A. Milo, L. J. Milo, Paul T. Milo, Richard Milo, Raymond Milo, Thomas A. O'Laughlin Jr., Ralph J. Osena, Frank Page, Lloyd C. Pease, D. Phillips, Herbert Pitts, William Posher, Frederick L. Pond, Hubert Provost, Frederick A. Raymond, Hubert J. Raymond, George H. Ricard, Richard J. Romack, Alan R. Rose, Joseph A. Rosello, Norman R. St. Ange, Roland G. Sandholm, John A. Santos, Ralph J. Senna, Walter A. Shaw, Lawrence I. Shea, Patrick J. Sheardane, John T. Smith, Paul G. Smith, William E. Smith, Frederick S. Sudak, Donald R. St. Ange, George Tattleman, James F. Thompson, William S. Trask, Bernard C. Victory, Edwin Whitney, Maurice J. Wynn, Lawrence L. Woods, Ernest T. Wright, Jr.
Charles E. Aaron, killed in action. Donald A. Elkhorn, Sr., Theodore J. Barrett, William M. Berry, Jerry G. Berkowitz, P. E. Boudreau, Dennis G. Boyd, Richard Brown, Richard E. Brundett, Jr., killed in action, William M. Bryant, Henry F. Cahill, John E. Carolyn, Philip J. Collins, William E. Collins, Paul J. Conlon, Raymond A. Cannell, Richard Connolly, killed in action, Dennis E. Kuchain, Barry Craig, David J. Cunha, Max V. Curtis, Harlan W. Daigneault, Michael Dean, Bruce A. Dillon, A. W. Dobieski, James F. Donahoe, Jr., John J. Drabat, William F. Dugan, George L. Dumont, David P. Ebert, Magnus J. Einerson, Chester L. Ellis, Jr., Robert J. Farron, Julio U. Gallardo, Robert F. Gillette, Richard J. Gingras, Normand J. Godfroy, David B. Grand, James M. Greco, Joseph A. Guthrie, Jr., Stephen J. Halloran, Charles R. Harvey, Albert C. Higert, Anita A. Hook.
Vietnam continued. Bruce M. Hughes, Sr., Kenneth R. Hughes, killed in action. Richard M. Ingerson, Richard E. Jordan, Thomas F. Joyce, Robert Kelios, Edward J. Kazara, Paul J. Lammy, Bruce J. Lammy, Sr., Charles J. Landry, Sr., Paul J. Langtang, Roger L. Lundrigan, John J. Mack, Jr., Richard Mahana, Michael J. McConnell, Edward McKenna, James McKenna, Harold L. McLatchy, Donald R. Menifee, Michael F. O'Connor, John J. O'Connell, Jr., William T. O'Donnell, Norman Olson, Robert J. O'Malley, Robert Panetton, Lionel Peliquin, George E. Reeves, Harold L. Reynolds, Samuel Richards, Jr., Charles Rogers, Peter D. St. Onge, Douglas Sundberg, Armin Supernaut, Paul M. Silva, William H. Thompson.
I didn't realize she said wait, so I waited 20 minutes. She told me like 10 minutes, so I thought, all right, she's done. So I go home, cook the eggs, and they come get me because they left. I'm like, well, I can't wait all that. Now I'm sitting there.
killing me.